Okay, so yesterday I was thinking, and I remembered a bit ago I had kind of like touched on being specific in things, and I realized something that, I have a couple of really good examples of that in my own life, of like specific things, expectations, tasks, and things. And those two examples are my parents. So each time they would give us something to do, it was usually specifically defined and laid out in such a way that you really couldn't mistake it. So for example, if we were expected to weed, it wasn't just go out and weed for a little bit. It was usually something like go out and weed a bucket, like a 5-gallon bucket, has to be so packed, or go out and weed out in this area for 10 minutes, half an hour, things like that, or do some sort of work. Usually it would, we're still working on some of the specifics for that, but certain kinds of tasks outside for a couple hours a day. So it's usually time defined, or in essence objective defined. Do so much of this and then you're done with that task. Or the bedrooms or cleaning rooms, whether it be a bathroom or whatever, it's specifically defined that the expectation is to clean it so well and to make it look so nice so that it's presentable or otherwise. But usually it's defined, and a lot of times an example is set that we can work from in order to meet that standard. More recently too, the end point is more defined than the process to do it. So the objective would be to get the bathroom clean and to make it the counters clear, the baseboards cleaned, the floor swept and mopped and things like that, so that the floor didn't have any spots on it or anything. There was no gunk and stuff gathering around around the corners of the counter and things like that on the sink, and the sink was actually white and clean instead of yellow and grody. So we usually had those visual examples to go off of. We had those certain specific measures that we could use to define clean. And a lot of times a high standard is set, so sometimes when we slack, it's okay, you came close, it wasn't too bad, but there's still some mercy that's being shown for not quite meeting that expectation or standard. Even in a family that both parents were in the military, there are some certain defined things that happen, and sometimes what can happen with those specific definitions is when you've defined it for, say, the older children, then the younger children don't always know what that's defined, especially when there is a 7-year gap between one child and the next. So that's a whole 7 years of difference, where the older 3 have kind of learned what the standard is, but the younger 2 haven't. Okay. So that has to be redefined for those younger ones again. So that's another thing, is Sometimes you get people walking into something when you've been specific with people in the past. And sometimes you expect to get by not having to define it because you haven't had to for so many years, or redefine it again for people that are newer. And I think I would say in a lot of places that oftentimes when you're going through orientation or things like that for a new job, that you're being told, like, this is the expectation that we have. I mean, for picking tomatoes, for example, we were told, like, okay, this is the kind of tomato that we're looking for. Kind of this big is usually what goes. This nice looking, we can usually get away with this much cracking, but not too much. Maybe like 1 or 2 at the max, but use your best judgment when you're looking at it. But this is kind of what we're looking for, something that's a sellable product. It's kind of the same way in a lot of things. So, being able to define a way to meet that objective, or being specific, helps you to better understand and see, better understand, see, feel, know what that expectation is. So, let's go, for example, with everyone's favorite game that keeps getting republished for every platform, Skyrim. So, oftentimes when you're starting a quest, you're given a specific point that you have to go to, and you're chasing that little funny marker. So you chase this little marker all over the place that tells you specifically where to go, something specific that you need to pick up. It's kind of your little guide for that specific thing that you need. And you're often told, like, okay, you're told the objective in your quest log, but you've got that handy little marker to tell you where exactly you need to go, or where exactly you need to start. But if you look at one of its predecessors, Morrowind, it didn't have that marker, but it had a way of telling you specifically where to go and specifically where to look. It gave you like a specific region or area that you were to search for something. You could scour that whole region, but you're not scouring the whole map looking for every mountain. Maybe you're going to this one mountain that was defined of where to go, so you've got to scour the whole mountain, but you're able to find what it is you're looking for still because you've been given this specific area to look in. So like, and sometimes you'll get a quest where you're told it specifically who you need to kill, specifically what you need to pick up. So like on a stream, I was going after an amulet that belonged to a previously murdered woman, and I had to also kill the people that murdered her in order to avenge her death and to help put her to rest. So I knew I had to look for this amulet, but I didn't know where it was. Wasn't aware that it was on someone's person, on someone's body. And so when I went looking for it through the boxes and things in the locked box, it's like, it's not there, it's not there, it's not there. When I checked my inventory again, oh, there it is. It had a specific name denoting the owner. So, and then a lot of times you might have a quest that you start that kind of starts off kind of vague. So it's like, you need to figure this one thing out. We don't know who you have to go after or what exactly you need to find. But there is this one person that can give you a hint. This one specific person. So again, they're being specific, pointing you in a specific direction that you can go in to further clarify what you need to do. So whether it's something that's like a goal of yours, being able to have a specific direction, or being more specific and narrowed down to where you can start at, is going to help make it easier for you to do what you need to do. Someone texting me. But yeah, so be specific. Set those specific goals. Everybody learned those SMART goals in school, I would think. Unless that's just white culture now to make goals. But yeah. Another addendum. Specific goals or specific directions help make it easier to do something, because you don't have to question what that definition is, because you've already defined what those things are specifically. So there aren't any questions about like, how do I do this, that, or the other? But you've already defined that. You've defined the end goal. So if maybe someone's a little bit more creative, they can work it out that way. But in general, when you're giving directions or those things, being specific makes it easier, and defining everything, much like a legal document would, helps make it easier for you to, or the other person, to understand what's going on. Okay, now that's the end.